Okay, I've been asked by Vision to share a little bit of information with you about rabbit nutrition. It's a very short presentation that will allow us to start a conversation and maybe a question and answer. I'm not a rabbit nutritionist, but in our group we have some. That's why we can provide high quality information that can help in your business developing rabbit feeds and rabbit feeds distribution. So feel free to ask me anytime, okay, during the presentation. If you have a doubt, you just raise your hand or you throw a plate to me, something like this.
If you're not a rabbit nutritionist, who formulated the rabbit feed?
Okay, the rabbit feed were formulated by our rabbit nutritionist in France. That's why, because if I don't know it, I don't do it. So those formulations that we share and the technology we share with Vision are formulated by our expert in France. Okay, so they know what they are talking about. At least I hope. I made two parts in this short presentation. One to talk a little bit about breeders, and one to talk a little bit about grower. Okay, and trying to explain why we have those two phases and why it's important to use those two phases in the rabbit production. Okay, so let's start with breeders. You might know that better than I do. I don't know, but the breeder management is really the heart of an herd, right? It's like in sows. If you take care of the sows, the piglets are good. They are well. That's a little bit similar also in rabbit production. So we have to take care about the breeders and the parameters during the cycles, because it influences the fertility, the production, and the profitability of the herd. So what are the objectives? First, to properly manage fruit breeders. Weak health status, they have a weak health status, they are sensible, okay, but they ensure the herd longevity. If you take care about the first parity and second parity breeders, it will ensure the longevity of your breeders. Young females' body growth influence fertility and longevity during production. Means that we need to give the proper nutrition to the breeders so we can ensure the fertility, the high production level, and also the longevity during production, not stopping our breeders after the second or third cycle. We normally have to differentiate, I don't know if you know that, what we call the pauciparous. Pauciparous is the nice term for the first and second cycle. So all the females that fall into the first and second cycles are called pauciparous. Usually they separate, even in France, they have a specific feed for pauciparous, right? So they separate them from the rest because those are still female that are growing. Okay, they are not finished the growth. Okay, it's exactly, again, I don't know if you're familiar with swine. Usually after the first parity is treated differently than the other one because they still have a need for growth. And they have also, in the first and second cycle, a weaker health status than multiparous females. We have also, it's very important to help multiparous female to ensure productivity, okay, to ensure they produce as much young rabbits as possible. So we have to take care about the health management, the concomitant management when you have lactation and gestation in the same area. So we have to secure the milk production, okay, because milk production is what will ensure the growth of the young rabbits, especially before 21 days, okay. And the breeder performance, because we want to have the highest fertility as possible and the higher born alive. We don't want mortality. So we have to take care of the multiparous so we ensure the best productivity of the herd. So you can see that so far there is already some specificities from the breeders, right? So you can imagine that there is those specificities. We need to adapt the nutrition to those specificities. And we have to properly manage also the pre-farrowing and pre-weaning phases, because at the end of the gestation, the cycle of, I think, if I remember correctly, the cycle of breeder is 31 days. Am I correct? Yeah. So at the end of this cycle, there is a high demand for the fetus growth. Exactly again, like in swine. It's very similar, but the nutrition have some specificities in rabbit. Also for gestation and the farrowing preparation. As I was saying a while ago, in France, it might be a bit more technical because it's a well-established production. It's made bigger. So they use also, so you know, they use also pre-herd and pauciparous diets. They use pre-farrowing diets, and they use also multiparous diet. And here in the Philippines, we are talking only about one feed, to keep it simple, right? But I put this slide so you understand that the nutrition can be adapted to all those stages in order to maximize the production of the breeders. Okay? But obviously, we have in nutrition to be practical. So we have to adapt our nutrition to the basic housing management of the breeders in the Philippines. Okay? That's why we decided to do just one diet, one breeder diet that will try to cover all those necessities. Okay?
Can we come up with 2 or 3?
We can come up with those 2 or 3 if we need, but we need to be sure that the market is ready to accept those diets and to be that technical. Also, we need, once we get into 2 or 3 phases in breeders, we need to ensure that we have the proper housing management. Because if we have some deficiencies in the housing management, having all those diets won't serve anything because we will have some lack in other factors, right? So before going too technically and being more complex, we need to ensure that the market is ready to accept all those diets. But at least you know that this is the common practice that we have in some herd in France. Why they do those specific diets? Because the pauciparous and pre-herd, we have to do secure feeds. Okay, I was talking a while ago because they have a weaker health status compared to multiparous. We need to give a different protein quality and also specific vitamins. So you can see that usually they are young, we need to reinforce in some vitamins, especially group B, those kind of vitamins. In pre-farrowing, we need to change some balance in mineral and antioxidant. Pre-farrowing, it's a stress for the animal, and usually we encounter oxidative stress. That's why we use some additives or some raw material that are bringing some antioxidant to help the animal going through this stressful stage. And in multiparous, obviously, one of the main purposes of the feed is to make milk, right? The milk production is so important, so we ensure that the young rabbit will start growing at a fast pace. Okay, so we have to take care of the specific nutrition of this breeder, so we ensure that the young rabbit will have enough nutrient, enough milk to start the growth. So, trying to summarize what we do differently in a breeder diet, those are the main, there is more, but the main 4 points you have to remember. The breeder diet has a higher amount of energy compared to the grower. Why? Anybody can tell me why we need more energy in the diet?
Production.
Exactly. We need to give more energy. We need to give more nutrient to the breeder so she can produce more milk. If we have a deficiency in energy, immediately the breeder will give less milk. So simple. More energy, more milk. So here you have the first point why we need to have a specific diet in breeders. Okay? Second point, we need to avoid the excess of protein. In rabbit, as you must know, they are almost like a monogastric ruminant. They need high fiber and high quality fiber, but low protein. Okay, so we need low protein in breeders to avoid mortality. If we give high protein, we will have more mortality. Okay, so that is very, very important to avoid low fertility and high mortality. We need to avoid the excess, but we need a minimum level. Okay, so we won't go too high, but we want to ensure we have a minimum level. Why? To ensure again the milk production. Okay, not only the energy is required for milk production, but also protein and amino acids that are fractions of the protein. Okay, so we need amino acids and protein to ensure milk production, productivity, and young rabbit growth. And finally, like in any other species, we need to adapt the diet in terms of micronutrients. Micronutrients are minerals and vitamins. So as I was mentioning before, one group that is very important in breeders' nutrition is vitamin of group B. Okay? B6, B9, B8, B12. Because they are very important in fertility and embryonic viability. What means embryonic viability? If we have a higher embryonic viability, we have more young rabbits, right? So that's very important. You can see that what is the purpose of the breeder? Basically, to produce as much young rabbits as possible and to give them milk, right? So for that, we need a very specific kind of diet to cover those requirements. Good enough? Is that clear? Or am I talking French already? No? Is that, okay. It's very basic what I want to share with you in terms of breeders' nutrition. Now, if you have other questions, we'll see that later. Okay, I will try to answer. If I can't answer, I will lie to you. I will make something up. I'm just kidding. You can answer. In grower, we have a different objective, okay? So remember, objective in breeders to produce as much young rabbits as possible and to give them milk so they grow as fast as possible. Not really complicated. In grower, what do we need? We want to align a good health status with maximizing the growth of the rabbits. So we need to adjust the nutrition in order to maximize the growth, okay? In order to make body weight, in order to make muscle, because the muscle are the meat, right? We need also, and that is a question for you, because that you might know better than I do here in the Philippines. In France, dietary restriction is a common practice. Here in the Philippines, they use restriction or they give ad libitum. Ad libitum. That is really easy. Okay, so sometimes we design some grower diets to fit some specific dietary restriction, okay? Because dietary restriction allows us to avoid protein or nitrogen wastage, and also to avoid some kind of mortality in some specific conditions. But if it's not the case in the Philippines, okay, you forget it. And we can also adapt the nutrition in grower to use natural product to avoid using excessive amount of antibiotics, okay, because of antibiotic resistance and because also of cost. So we can use antioxidant, pre or probiotics, acidifiers. So those products are used in Vision 2000 nutrition to avoid as much as possible using any kind of antibiotic. And we want also to optimize the yield, right? What is the yield? It's basically the weight of the carcass, right, divided by the weight of the animal, the live weight. Okay? The higher it is, the more meat we have on the carcass. So we want to maximize the yield. So the rabbit we are producing in the grower are more meaty, right? So that is very important. So see that the purpose of those two diets are really different. Huh? Here I'm not talking about reproduction, fertility, embryonic viability, milk production. I'm not talking about that. Here I'm talking about how we can maximize the growth of the rabbit, so to achieve the final weight as fast as possible and to make more meat. So if the goals are different, the diets are very different. Okay? We were talking also about fiber. So one of the things, and I think the most challenging parameter in grower nutrition is fiber. And I think James will agree with me, it's really, really complex. To have good quality fiber in high amount in the diet and to be able to comply with also the root protein and the energy. Why the fiber is so important in rabbit? Look at this. ADF is, I want to explain the concept of fibers. It's a type of fiber, okay, we need to have into the diet. The mortality, look at the impact of mortality. The mortality lowers more than 1 point, so we lower 1% of mortality for every additional percent of ADF in the diet. Can you imagine the importance of fiber, and especially this kind of fiber? So we need to put enough fiber into the diet to avoid mortality in grower. The ADL also, lignin or non-digestible fiber, those are fractions that the rabbit cannot digest, so we will reject it. Okay? We need to take care of the excess of, we need enough to lower also the mortality, but we need to be careful on the excess, not to put too much, because it can occur paresis. Everybody know what paresis is? It's a type of muscle dysfunction, like a paralysis, right? It's called paresis. So the rabbits won't move too much, and they have weakness in the muscle. Okay? So again, you see, we need enough, but not too much. Otherwise, we have a detrimental effect. So it's really a challenge formulating those diets. And we need to have also enough digestible fibers, because those digestible fibers are digested by the rabbit and help fermentation and help also the digestibility of some nutrients. So it's very important, like in other monogastric species. Okay, so see, I didn't want to share too much information about nutrition because there is a lot of concepts. If you're not a nutritionist, you will say, why should I know that? But at least with those 3-4 slides on what we are looking for in breeders, what we are looking for in grower, you start understanding that's two completely different words, right? The goals we want to achieve in breeders and the goals we want to achieve in grower are completely different. So we cannot use the same diet. As simple as that, okay? In the breeders, we need usually more energy, a bit more protein, more amino acids, and also more micronutrients, more vitamins. So if you hear more, it means that the diet might be slightly more expensive, right? Because we have to cover all that. We have to help the factory of rabbits, the breeder, okay? And usually in grower, we need less energy, less good protein, but a higher amount of fiber. So usually this diet is slightly less expensive than breeder. Okay? Basically, that is the simple justification. Now, I just want to give you a tip because when I requested this information to my colleague in France, the expert, he said, if you have just to say one thing in the feeding program, just insist in one concept. So I said I would just make one slide to insist in this concept because it might help you give better results to your customers than others. Because I don't know what they are doing. It was really insisting on this. So basically in breeders, I told you we use the breeder diet. So simple, huh? We know the objectives already. Huh? We need to produce more rabbits, we need to produce more milk. So we need to use the breeder diet. But if you look at the feeding program I'm presenting to you, say, okay, look, from farrowing, how you call it in English? Farrowing or parturition or? Because I'm using the word from swine, so I don't know. Farrowing? Farrowing or parturition? Yeah. Littering, okay, I'll change that later, okay? Thank you for the tip. So from day 0 to 27, you use breeder diet.
Even when you say 0, it's littering, but up to 27 days, it's kindling.
Okay, littering to kindling. Okay. See, I'm learning a lot today. So it's the breeder feed. But it insists, you say, hey, from 28 to 35 days, you use the grower diet. After that, you use again the breeder diet. Okay? So basically in breeders, all the time, breeder diet, except 28 to 35. After that, after 35, it's very important before littering to prepare the female, right? So you need to use high energy for the breeder diet. Okay?
Before kindling, we need to ship the grower pills, right?
Yes, 28 to 35 days. Yes.
Before weaning.
No, before weaning. Before removing the young rabbits from the female. How you call that? Weaning? It's pre-weaning, okay? Before you remove the rabbits from the breeder, okay? From the female. Yes. So they give birth, okay? From this point, you give breeder diet, breeder feed. Maybe you can do it one day, half and half. Maybe that can help. Because you cannot afford 1 week transition. So maybe if you want to make a transition, I would say, you know what, at day 27 or day 28, you give half enough, and after that you switch to grower diet. Okay?
Hello. I think it's important that because what they're doing right now, they're only using grower feeds even for the breeders. So I asked you one, please emphasize what is the importance of using the breeder feeds when it is necessary.
And I think if you use now after the few slides, I'm not an expert, but what you should expect is maybe mortality, maybe some fertility problem. Okay, see, at least you know I'm not lying today. so that is the importance, because you need to give this kind of specific nutrition. Okay.
Because there is no with the other, there is no bright given to us.
Wow.
Pellets.
The amount of pellets to be given to the kids was not stated in the packaging. And we understand because that is just temporary. So we are requesting as soon as possible to give us the food guide.
Okay, yeah, I will work on that. Yes. I will work on a simple feeding guide so I can provide that provision. Okay, so no problem.
Thank you, sir.
But that is basic. Yeah.
Excuse me, based on that schedule, so after day 35 it's already breeder feed.
Exactly.
Okay. When are we supposed to do the breeding itself, the mating? If it's after day 35?
The what? Sorry.
When you breed already, the mating,
I think it's day 13. Let me see. I have that.
okay, yes, please.
Because I'm not an expert, but I have this in my computer. Okay, so
Yes,
I will search for it. Just remind
Because
me.
it's, we don't have, actually, as I said, everyone does that. Everyone is doing their own way here in the Philippines. Nobody-
I will show you the site.
Yes, please.
I will
Yes,
show you
please.
the site.
Thank you.
So basically, okay, if I summarize, in breeders, you give breeder diet all the time, but 28 to 35 days. Huh? Okay. I will explain a little bit why. I will explain briefly why. Okay, no problem. And basically, in grower, now you know, you use the grower diet, okay? When you present it, usually the young rabbit can start consuming around 21 days, okay? After birth, 21 days. When you reach 370 grams, something like this. So maybe it will consume, probably, if you want to switch to have two diets, it will probably use the breeder diet. But after 28, if you stop giving at 28 days to the breeders the grower diet, you give also the grower to the young rabbit. You switch already, okay? You switch already 28 days until, I don't know, 77. How many days you grow the?
30 days.
Only 30 days.
4 weeks.
That's one more concern we are asking. When do you recommend to wean them from the breeder dog?
Okay.
After
I will, with the same slide, unfortunately it's in French, but I will explain, and after that I can translate and send that to Vision. I will show in the cycle, okay, what is recommended apparently. So the objective at weaning is 600 grams. Those are French standards. I don't know here, okay? So do not take that for granted. We have to adapt the goal to the actual local production, okay? And the objective at 35 days of age is 900 grams.
Ika 4 weeks, 600 grams, so tayo. So,
Okay?
kasi in 1 month, we can have a 600 grams. In the weaning, the 35.
even with the
No, 1 month, I mean just a bit more than 1 month, 35 days, 900 grams, okay?
Yeah.
But if, according to what I see, maybe the winning will be around 28, 21 days, something like this. You have to achieve around 600 grams.
Is that applicable for the local rabbits here? Or we are talking about the high qualities?
That is a good question, but I don't have the answer because I don't have the experience. I don't want to lie to you. So that is the kind of information we have to go back and forward to understand. But we can exchange until we really understand what are the specific goals. I can share with you what is the average parameters in France, the 10% lower, the 10% higher. So you have a panorama of what kind of parameters they achieve.
So we will know what target we have
To work on that, yeah. But remember also, in terms of reproduction cycle, they use also multiple diets. We are using one. So I mean, we have to understand that we have some specificity in the Philippines, right? Okay.
This data is for high grade rabbit. This is for
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, make sense? So basically, after winning the grower feeds in the rabbits and inbreeders, all the time breeder diet, except
28, 35.
28 to 35, exactly. Okay?
Rabbit farming in the Philippines is so new, right? The rabbit formulation is so alien to us, so new to us. Everything is new. Artificial insemination is a new thing for rabbit. In swine, we're doing it. All of us are doing it. But in rabbit, we don't have the knowledge yet. Maybe that can be part of the program. We can try to learn and impart to you how to do it properly. We will try to find somebody who knows how to inseminate. Yohan is not an expert on rabbit, that he already admitted this in the first place.
I try to sound like an expert, but I'm not. I'm just pretending. Finally, and then I don't bother you anymore with all that. Just to let you know, why we have so much information and we can share this kind of knowledge, because we have an experimental station, a research station in France with rabbits. So we experiment new nutrients, new additives, new formulation system, housing management, a lot of things, right? Yeah. And one of the partners we have in this experimental station, we have no commercial relationship. We don't have any kind of benefits, but our partners in genetic is a company that I can relate it also to you. You know it already? Okay. That's the what we use in our experimental station in fact.
We covered the whole presentation. We'll be also sending you a copy of the link of the presentation. When you mark it, you can just give them the link so they will know. Then it's so easy to explain afterwards. We're making your lives a lot easier because you're partners.
Okay, I thank you very much. It was very nice to meet you. I hope we will have another opportunity to discuss more in detail when I put up my farm in rabbits. Huh? Thank you so much. Have a good afternoon.